Hello, I'd like to talk today about the origin of the imagery found in the trailer for Neverending Nightmares, and a lot of that imagery is found in the demo. Um, well, sort of an interesting side effect to the game is that people have become very interested in the psychological aspects, and certainly the aspect of me putting myself into the game and putting my experiences, and that's been really great and really interesting, and to some extent I thought that would be more of a footnote, like, hey, it draws on my experience, but people have really sort of honed in on that and find it really appealing, which is great, and I find that, you know, bigger, better than my wildest dreams, because again, not only do I want to express my own experience and share that with people, I want to bring mental illness as an subject, bring that up in people's minds, discuss it, try and show what it's like, and try and remove the stigma. So the fact that people care so much about that aspect of the game is surprising to me, but very pleasing. But then I thought I would go and sort of talk about a lot of the imagery and what it means to me, and I will basically avoid spoilers. So, firstly, the main thing is the graphic violence against the arm, so the tearing out of the vein and tearing the bone out. And so those images are basically 100% reenactment of intrusive thoughts that I've struggled with because of obsessive compulsive disorder. And I've talked about this, especially everyone who came up in packs and interviews, but basically the way it works is that my mind comes up with these horrifying images, these disturbing ideas to upset me. And I don't know where they came from. I've very non-violent person. I don't know why my mind comes up with these images, and these images are directed towards hurting myself. So that has definitely been something very difficult to deal with as part of my obsessive compulsive disorder, and certainly through therapies, exposure response therapy, type of cognitive behavioral therapy, I've been able to deal with them better. Still, they're not great, and I still have, they still bother me a little, they still pop in my head, but mostly I've gotten that under control. So, there are some other things which just don't directly necessarily tie to, my psychological state, but more of my experience. So, like, for example, there's the little girl with, the Glasgow smile, or whatever it's called, sort of shambling up there. And so, that actually, the idea came from, I believe it was this movie, A Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag or something. Some movie I saw when I was very young. I think my parents took my sister and I to it. And they, cut someone's lip like that, and that image just really upset me and stuck with me, and it's kind of interesting because certainly, look at me now, I'm making this graphically terrible horror movie, and I talk about, well, obviously the graphics aren't terrible, but it's very graphic and violent, and so, but I was very scared, as a child growing up of movies and stuff. Like, I think when I saw the Neverending Story, I had like nightmares because there's like real violence, the cut the wolf monsters. I don't know, I haven't seen the film like in 12, 15, 20 years or something. I don't know. Oh no, probably more than 20 years. I'm old now. I don't know, let's say 25 years. I haven't seen the film, and like, but it really, that violence, I don't know, 6 or something, really, really upset me, and certainly I can look in there. There were other, horror movies that sort of stuck with me in the images. So another example is like Event Horizon, which I don't know, came out I was in high school, so it really shouldn't have upset me. But still, I mean, even in high school, I wasn't as comfortable with, violence in movies in terms of the disturbing images. So in Event Horizon, they do the Sam Neill's wife is like missing her eyes, and like that really bothered me. And the interesting thing about Event Horizon, because I was really into sci-fi at that point. I mean, I still like sci-fi, but at that point I saw like every sci-fi movie ever. So opening night went to the movie with a friend. I thought it was just gonna be a sci-fi movie. Like, hey, cool, they went to the Event Horizon, but then all of a sudden I'm like, this eyes missing and stuff. And I mean, I wouldn't say Event Horizon stands up in the pantheon of horror movies, but I went back and watched it recently, and perhaps it sort of dials into where I was at the time, but it still sort of has more of an effect on me than probably it would. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad horror movie, but I mean, certainly I don't think it's a great movie, but I feel like because of my personal experience, it has a lot more impact on me. And it's similar with again, the other sort of images, and I don't even know if I can go back and watch the Neverending Story. It sounds so stupid saying aloud, but I just feel, I don't know, like it bothered me. I mean, even like He-Man the movie, or Masters of the Universe, technically, I was the biggest He-Man fan ever, but like, just when that came out, it was violence with real people, and I just couldn't handle it. And I mean, to some extent, that's what I'm trying to do with the art style of Neverending Nightmares, is that we're sort of trying to channel that inner child and try and recapture the state of fear you lived in then. Because, again, and certainly, I don't know, I'm sure people have done lots of research, but fear to me is about vulnerability. And as a child, you're very vulnerable. So trying to capture those childlike feelings when you're vulnerable, when you're scared of stupid gore in movies and stuff, that's what I'm really trying to do with Neverending Nightmares.